Hello everyone, it's Melanie with Painting Crafty, and tonight is Thursday Night Draw Along, and I'm going to be showing you step by step of how to draw this sweet little vase of lavender. Super easy, super quick, but it would make a sweet card or just a simple little drawing to have in a framed piece would be great for that. Tonight I'm going to be showing you how to use watercolor. So the materials I'm going to be using is the Canson watercolor paper, 140 pound. It's considered a student grade, which means that it's reasonably priced, and I'm a firm believer in just spending just a tiny bit more money on your watercolor paper and then just use whatever kind of watercolor you can afford. So tonight I'm going to be using the Paul Rubens set. This is kind of a medium grade, more of an artist grade of watercolor paint, but don't let that stop you. If you don't have that, use what you have. Hi, Carrie, my sweet friend. I'm going live tonight in YouTube, so thanks so much if you're watching. If you wouldn't mind giving me a thumbs up, I would so appreciate it. And if you haven't subscribed, if you do that as well, that would be wonderful. Other simple materials I'm going to be using tonight is just a regular old mechanical pencil, nothing fancy. The paintbrushes that I like to use are the Velvet Touch Princeton series, the round brushes. I mostly use a 6 and a 10. These get all my work done in this size of a painting. I love them because they have a great little tip on the end. They've got a great bounce. They last you a long time, and I believe I bought mine at Michael's. So they're easy to find, but I'm sure you can find them online as well. Hello, Judy. Thanks for coming on. Well, let's get started. I'm going to make me small and the picture big, and we're going to start here. Oh, before I forget, I do have a Ko-fi page, which is like a Patreon page for those who might not be interested in drawing, but you still want to paint or do anything else, because once you have the item drawn, you can create it any way you wanted to. This would make a great mixed media piece as well. So this is what you get when you join my subscription group over on my Ko-fi page, and I'll be sending out those tracers today. I get all the tracers that I do live in my Facebook page and on my YouTube page. So if you're interested, stop on over there. It's also just a great way to support my page. Well, I'm working on a 6x6 piece of paper today. I also cut a piece of a 5x5 paper. Now, you don't have to cut this. You could just measure 5x5 or just something a little bit smaller than the paper that you're going to be drawing on. So I just eyeballed this and I just drew a square. I love this little idea of putting the square in the square. So if you're working on a rectangle card, if you were doing this in a card series, you could easily do the same thing. Just measure out your paper just slightly smaller. I'm going to create a line all the way around. And I'm going to be doing this lightly because I want to be able to do this just in watercolor, and I'm not going to have any line detail. But if you would like to carry it in line detail, you most certainly can. So there is my square. I just have it lightly drawn, and I can even make it even lighter if I want to. I can come in with my gummy eraser, go over this line, pick up a little bit of the graphite. These little gum erasers work perfect for this because they don't smear your graphite all around your paper, and you can just get a nice light quality line afterwards. So if you're just using watercolor, it works perfectly for this. Hopefully you'll be able to kind of see. So my idea for when I did this is, let's see, let's draw down the middle. I didn't do anything spectacular with this one, but this will just give you a guide for how big I drew the little water picture in the middle. So here's my center line. I'll just do that quickly here as well. I'll just kind of eyeball it, bring a line across real light, and I'll look here and do the same thing. Just come down. This will give me an idea. Okay, there we go. So the shape we're going to be starting with tonight is a very basic one. We're going to be starting with a kind of a U shape. If we look at it here, we're going to be going out just ever so slightly. And on this side here too, we'll be going out ever so slightly. So the top is going to be narrower, and it's going to get gradually larger as we come down here. So here is my center line. I started up just a little higher. So I'm going to look about right here, and I'm going to make a tick mark over here so I have something to look at to see if I have my lines kind of lined up. Okay, there we go. Sometimes I make it a little bigger. Sometimes I make it a little smaller. Just choose one. Okay, there we go. All right, so now when I make my U, I want to go this direction. So I'm heading over here gradually. I like doing this little bit of a sketch motion just to warm my hand up. And it also allows me some flexibility when I'm drawing. So now I'm coming out towards this direction, and I'm going to come down. And when I get to the bottom of where I want the bottom of this little water picture, this is when I'm going to connect it with a gentle smile face. And that's just going to add a nice curve so that you're going to have some contourness to your item. So it's going to look like it goes around and it's not so flat. Hello there, Deb. Thanks for popping on. Now take a look. Do you think it's high enough to look like it is a pouring picture? Well, I think I'm going to make mine a little bit taller just to give it more of a feel of a drawing picture, a pouring picture, because here's that top of that line that I want my flowers to go up and into. So I'm going to come up, and now to do this little lip, all I'm going to do is curve out a little bit. If you think of kind of like a coffee pot, an old-fashioned coffee pot where there's this little bit of a lip or a little tiny ear, kind of think of it that way, is going to come out. Now I'm going to do that same type of curve I did down here. I'm going to repeat that same shape up here, just a tiny bit, as a gentle little curve. And there we have the little pouring pictures shape. Now let's go ahead and attach a handle. So this is going to be that ear shape off to the side. So I'm just going to come up and around. And this will be different every time. Just draw a shape that looks kind of like it would match the shape that you drew. And I'm going to come on the inside here and duplicate my shape. Now I did carry it a little lower. I figured if it was a big pouring picture, it would probably have a big handle. So I wanted to include a longer handle on there. Hello, my friend Gloria. Thanks for coming on tonight. Now let's work a little bit on the lavender. Now lavender is super easy to paint. If you look at my little hatches, I did just very simply did these little V shapes. Lavender is always going to be wider at the base and then get narrower. I didn't even include a lot of the green foliage that you would find on lavender. If you would like to add some of that, then the lavender foliage would be it's going to be curvy. It's a little bit wilder if you wanted to add some of that in there. But I decided I didn't want any of that in there. I just wanted the flowers. So what makes this look good is to have a variety of purples, a purple, and then more of a bluish purple. So if you have just even two colors, and I'm not going to bother too much with drawing a lot of stems in because I'm going to plop in some ideas. But if you have those two colors, a bluish purple and a red purple, you're going to have enough color to be able to add some light washes and some dark washes. So I'm just going to take a look. What will look good is if you decide, have your lavender, some going up past your dividing line, that little square that you drew, and also have some that are going all the different directions. So I'm going to have some here, but I can't make them all V from the center because it would look like it's all just coming from the center. And I want them to look like they've been placed in this vase. So I need to move them over and then add another direction. Lavender is a little wild too, so you can have some bendy ones if you want to, and over. This is just going to be guides. I don't have to follow this. And I'm going to be filling it up, even filling it up a little bit more when I'm adding my watercolor. Okay, so we have the basic idea. I want it to come out to the edge and really kind of fill my space. This is just going to give me a guideline of what I want to do. Now let's go ahead and erase whatever you might have for guidelines. Erase those because you don't really want to have those in the end anyway. I'm going to use this polymer eraser. I like using this one when I'm doing my guidelines to be able to erase those. And I like using the gum eraser when I just need to lighten my lines a little bit. Now, because I have all that eraser there, I like using a little bit of a desk vacuum on top just to pick up the little bitsies so they don't interfere with my painting. Okay. And then if you got a little bit more of your graphite that you want to pick up, just take your little gum eraser and go over your drawing and pick that little bit up if you get a little bit of the smearing happening. It works perfect. It's the perfect tool for picking up that graphite. All right, let's go ahead and start our watercolor. I'm going to put in some beginning layers on my pouring picture because I didn't do it just a simple one. I did some glazing techniques over the top. So I'm adding some color on there, multiple colors on there. So I'm going to give a couple layers and then let it give it time to dry and then add another layer. So for my pouring picture, I'm going to start out with some blue colors. Now, if you're new to watercolor, whatever set you might be doing, you're going to want to do a color chart of some sort because watercolor is very transparent and translucent, and the paper is what affects the color of your painting. They look so different when they're in your pan than they do on your paper. So I highly recommend use the paper that you normally use and do a color chart so you have an idea of what your colors are going to look like. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to take a blue, kind of this little pale blue. Some of these colors I will be using in my lavender as well. I'm going to take this pale blue. And then I also picked up I picked up a brown, kind of a grayish brown. I'm going to layer some of that color in there too, off to the side. And I will be doing a purple. Some of the lavender that I use on my lavender, I'm also going to be adding that in to my base as well. So I have my colors mixed to about tea consistency, which is thinner, more water than there is pigment. That's going to give me some nice wash look to it. And there's my brown. All right, I'm going to start in with my blue. I'm going to pick it up and I'm just going to layer this color lightly over the top here. And I want to leave some white areas that are going to be on my picture. The brightest whites will be the color of the paper. So we're just going to lay this in. And then let's lay a little on the handle as well. And now while my paper is still wet, I'm going to pick up a little bit of that brown and I'm going to pop that in. So I'm going to come in and just touch a little bit of the brown. So I'm tapping it in. And because my paper is wet, my colors are just going to blend out and move in together. So I'm just going to add a little bit of this dark color. I'm going to be adding more texture with my next colors or my next layers by dragging my color and having kind of more of a dry brush look. Okay, so I'm just going to let that work its magic. You can come back in and add a little bit more blue if you want to. Darkens up some of those areas. Now, if you get too much and you're like, oh, that's too much color, rinse your brush out with clear water, give it a squeeze, create a thirsty brush, and then you can tap that over there and actually pick up some of the color. Now, watercolor is going to dry lighter, so this is going to dry much lighter than what it is now. And I'm just tapping a little bit more color in because I know it's going to dry lighter over my colors, making sure I bring it, kind of down to the bottom. Getting my edges, this handle. All right, now let's let this sit and let it dry a little bit. Let's pop up and work a little bit on our lavender. So I'm going to take that purple and then I'm just going to choose another blue. I probably will use a little bit more of that blue that I used on the pouring picture. I will add a little bit more of that over here. I can choose a brighter blue too and have that off to the side. So I have more of a violet purple. This color is called Violet, this one here. This color here is called Sky Blue. And then I picked up a little bit of Sea Blue. So I have a little bit of all kinds of color. Now you could also pick up even a darker one, kind of like a Prussian blue, this one is called. That's over here on this area. Let's see, maybe it's this one. I just want a nice variety of color. That's a little bit of black. Whoops. Okay, there's the color I'm looking for. That's a nice dark blue color. So I have a nice selection of colors. So these are all tea consistency. Now all I'm going to do is start a little bit small at the top and I'm going to be dabbing kind of in a V direction. So I'm going to have everything pointing up and in a V, and as I work my way down I'm going to get a little bit more wider and not as not as little pieces. Maybe that would be the right way to say it. Okay, and then I can come in, little dots at the top, start doing my little V sections. And again, these do not have to be perfect. And I'm just tapping the very tip of my brush and creating this really loose look for these flowers. So you can see how fun this is, how easy this is to do as far as making it quick and easy. Now I can pick up a little bit of that blue, come in here. I have a little bit of the purple still on my brush, which looks great. Getting wider, making my colors blend a little bit. just making a variation of color. These are very loose and very quick. Okay. And that first one, you can tell it's drying a lot lighter. So it's in the background, it's drying a lot lighter than when I started. I'm going to dip back into my purple. Doing those little kind of V shapes irregularly, leaving a little bit of openness so it's not solid. Our tendency sometimes is to fill in too quickly, and then we don't have any room to open things, have any room to add things or open or deepen or add to our colors. So it's important to leave some little open spaces as well so you have some room to create. Look at how quickly this is really coming together. Let's add a little bit of blue here. That, and I'm going to add some over here as well. I'm going to pick up a little bit more of that purple, a little bit more water. Okay, let's tap in. Okay, and this is a good time to kind of stop. Take a look. Is there an area that you need to add more color to? Now, I can see my things better in the camera when I look up than I can just sitting in front of me because I can see things so differently than when I can just looking straight on. My picture is slightly off to the side of me, so it always looks better when I look off to the side. So I know I have a heavier bunch of group over here. I need to add a little bit more. Now this is the time I can come in with my darkest colors now. I can come back in with that purple. I'm just rolling it around in my pigment and picking up just the tiniest bit of water wherever I am over here. And now I can tap in some really dark areas because my colors are wet and they're still going to blend out on their own without me doing very much at all. And I'm just adding these little hot spots of dark color while my paper is wet. And that color is going to sit and blend, and I can darken up some areas. Now, if you feel like your color isn't moving around very much, like you need to go in and wet it a little bit more or add more water, you can just clean water and then hit those spots again if you feel like you need to loosen that area up a little bit. Okay, I'm going to come in with a little bit of that blue too and darken my area as well. So I'm going to come in and add some really strong areas of the blue. That looks good. All right, now we have a little bit, I'm going to let that dry just a tiny bit, and then I'm going to add a little bit of green in there, just a little bit. It is beautiful, isn't it, Gloria? And it comes together so quickly and easily. Now let's pick up a little bit more of that blue that we started with. Now this time I probably have more consistency of milk, a little bit more pigment, but still some water in there. Okay, so now I'm going to come in and I'm going to dry my brush off just a tiny bit so I don't have so much water in there. And I'm going to come down and see if I can't get some dry brushing to happen. So I'm going to turn my brush sideways, and you can see how I'm dragging it down. You can actually hear it. And I'm creating this dry brushing look with my watercolor and adding some texture. Okay, let's pick up a little bit of that brown. Same thing. And I'm going to come in with my brown and I'm going to do the same thing. So I'm dry brushing that color on with the side of my brush. Not a lot of water. I'll add a little bit. Let's add a little bit over here. Dry it off again. That's going to add just a little bit of rustic texture to my picture that I'm doing. I'm still going to leave some of the white showing, but I'm just kind of adding that. Okay, so let's pick up a little bit of that purple that we've been using, and let's do the same thing. So I'm going to come over, dry my brush off. I have it loaded with some purple, and I'm going to add a little bit of the purple. Now, if you get too much, dry your brush off again or rinse it off, dry it off, and pull that color. So I'm not looking for strong shades of purple, but just some hints. Ooh, this is creating. I'll hold this up a little bit closer. Hopefully you'll be able to see the texture that I'm creating by doing this dragging. Okay, you can even switch out brushes. If you want to use a rougher, scruffier brush, you could. So hopefully the light will show you a little bit of the color that was coming through. Very nice. Okay, so let's pick up a little bit of green. So choose whatever kind of green you're going to be using. I'm going to be using probably in this family over here, kind of the sagey color green. Got lots of colors here. Let's add a little bit of the sagey green. Okay, so let's add a tiny bit of green. I'm just going to be pulling some stems in there. So I'm just going to be tapping some color in. So I'm going to be following some of my ends. You can also come up and do some little greens at the ends where it's ending that way at the end of your stem. I'm not drawing actual leaf shapes. I'm just indicating that there is some green in there and that these are on a green stem. So I'm just tapping in a little bit of color. The quicker you do this, the better look you're going to get. So try not to labor on it too much. Just pop that color in there and let it sit and blend together and do its magic. Okay, I'm going to pick up a little bit more of that dark color, and I'm going to put a little bit more shadow underneath my flowers here. Oops, too much color. At the top of my vase, there would be a stronger shadow because all of those items be casting a shadow. So I want it to be a little bit darker at my top. Okay, very pretty. All right, let's go ahead and add our purple background. So this is where we're going to be adding this little bit of purple background. Now, if you notice, I have a little darker edge around all the way going around. I'm going to switch to my number 10 brush. I'm going to use that same purple that I used originally over here, this violet purple. This is a very strong color in my set, so I need to make sure I'm kind of keeping control of it here. I'm going to tap it on my paper towel first. And now I'm going to go ahead and add this in here, and I'm just going to freehand it where my, a little fuzzy on there, freehand it where my square is, the original one that I put on. I'm just going to freehand that color in. I'm going to start at one side and work my way over. Now when I get to my flowers, I kind of want to just scoot a little fast because this hasn't had time to dry too much. So everything is pretty tender. And I could rub it off if I get too much rubbing going on there. So I want to get close, but not spend a ton of time rubbing my color in. Tap, tap, tap. Now when I get up here, I'm just going to go quick. I can come close to the items, blend a little bit, but again, I'm not going to spend a ton of time. I'm going to follow my line at the top where I can and accent that a little bit to make a darker, little bit more pronounced line. Where we did, that's going to give it that interesting look of having the color flow over, or my plants flow over the top or off the edge of my shape. Okay, so we're going to keep on going here. Now I want to continue with going down this way to continue with how I did it over here. Now if you need to turn it, feel like you need to turn it, go ahead and turn your picture. Sometimes you get going and you forget about that I need to go this direction down here because I just can't turn my hand. But you can always turn your picture. But I'm doing this lighter version here, following that outline that I created with my little template I made. Okay, now I'm going to come in with a little bit stronger purple now. Little less water, but again, this is a strong color, so I need to be a little careful. I'm going to go ahead and tap this again, and I'm going to come here on the edge and add in a darker bit of purple. Come in. Now I need to take some clean water because that's a really strong line, and I need to come in here with some clean water and draw that out a little bit because that's way too dark of a line to end with. Come in here, and I want that color to be varied. I want it to go from dark until light. Okay, that looks good. Let's pick up a little bit more of that purple. I'm going to come up here and add another just tiniest bit of dark. I want it to be accented. Come down, and again, I'm going to rinse my brush out just with clean water. Oh, the purples, they are pretty. And I'm going to blend that color in. Yes, it's a real fun image to do. Now I'm going to turn my card just because my hand will work better this direction. So I'm going to lay that color in. Purple again. Come in with some clean water. Dab it off. And then pull that color in towards my item. So I've got that darker but going to lighter, without having a strong, super strong line. Okay, so let's take a look at what this looks like. Ooh, that looks pretty. All right, let's go ahead and do the bottom too. So I'm going to come here, add more of that strong color. Take some clean water. And add it in. Now this is where you can decide what kind of shadow you might like to have on yours. Now this one I did put a brown shadow, and I probably shouldn't have put it on this side actually. I probably should have just kept it on choosing like the front and maybe off to one side, whichever way, but I probably shouldn't have put that one there. And what I did is I picked up some of the brown that I used originally. Oops, come in here. I'll just add it to some blue, that would be fine. You can make it up. And actually it looks good to put a little bit of your color, like I'll put a little bit of purple in there too, so it'd make it kind of a purplish gray, maybe this time. And then let's see if I can't lay in a shadow. It might be a little early, it might look like a little too early, but I can just darken this underneath here, bring it out a little ways, just to add a little bit of shadow, and that's gonna help give even more of a realistic look or feel to my drawing. Now it doesn't have to be perfect. Okay, and I'm going to call it good right there, like that. Now let's add a little bit of splitter splatter. I'm going to take a little bit of that purple to about milk consistency over here. And I'm going to, let's see, I think maybe I will cover up that little picture a little bit so I don't have too much going on that little pouring picture. Give it a look like this over the top. Let's give a tap, tap, tap. And let's see if we can do it down low. Now I'm going to add a little bit more water to it. So I'm going to rinse my brush. I'll put my brush in water, and I'm going to give it a slight, so I've rinsed out some. So it's going to have more water in it than it is pigment. And I'm going to get a softer splash. Okay, and that is it. Now when you do these, make sure you sign them, because these would make lovely little cards to be able to send, a thank you card, a friendship card, all kinds of things. But you can tell this one is a little lighter, this one's a little darker, but they're both lovely, and they look great with those little where it travels off the little purple border on there. So any size you do them, you can add a little bit of purple border on it and just bring your flowers out. We're going to be doing another little set like this. We're going to continue on with a little bit of a flower series. On Thursdays, we'll be doing these little quick, easy flowers. So hopefully you'll come back and join me. There will also be another link to another video. So if you want to continue on after this, after it goes live, most certainly can click on that link and join in some more art fun. See if we can go that out. And if you want to join me live, I always am live on Tuesdays and Thursdays in YouTube. So thanks everyone. You have a great night, and we will see you again. Oh, you're going to attempt it. Well, wonderful. Thanks everyone for joining in tonight on YouTube. If you wouldn't mind giving me a thumbs up, that's great. If you want to see more flowers, put in the comment flowers, or if you want to do something else, let me know what that might mean afterwards. Just leave it in the comments. I always want to do what you want to do. So let me know what you would like to do. That's it for now, my lovely friends, and hopefully we'll see you next time. Bye.